Hey, this is Levy from Diablo2. Just wanted to make a quick guide about how to build a Javazon. This is for Diablo 2 version 1.09, and I'm playing on the Diablo 09 realm. So this is a realm anyone can join. You can go to Diablo09.com to download it and start playing, and it's playing version 1.09 of Diablo 2. And so this guide is really for beginners, people just starting out. I definitely recommend building a Javazon as one of your first few characters. I think they're one of the best characters to kill and farm the cow level, which is the best place in 1.09 to level up and one of the best places to find items as well. So in terms of, we'll just start off with stats. So in terms of stats, it's pretty similar to most other builds where you get enough strength to wear your items. So in this case, it's around 130. Dexterity, you definitely want max block. So that's going to be around 220 dex, but getting more isn't bad. It's just a personal preference. And then the rest in vitality. And basically, once you reach max block for dexterity, it's a trade-off between do you want more life or do you want more damage and attack rating? And this is mostly for your guided arrow and multi-shot. Lightning Fury, which is your main Javazon skill, isn't really affected by higher dexterity. So that's the stats. And in terms of skills, the first thing you want to max is Lightning Fury. This is your main attack. You're going to be using this 90% of the time. And I do recommend also just getting one in jab. It's just one skill point. And, it can help if you need to leech a little or that kind of thing. So definitely max Lightning Fury first. Um, the next most important is you want to max Pierce. Pierce does have diminishing returns as you get into the higher skill levels of it, but I definitely recommend maxing it. And this is because it increases your Lightning Fury damage, which I'll talk more about how Lightning Fury works later. Once you have Lightning Fury and Pierce maxed, I'd probably then max Critical Strike. This is more helping your Guided Arrow and Multi-Shot damage. It doesn't really help Lightning Fury damage much, because the bulk of the Lightning Fury damage comes from the lightning bolts that are released. And Critical Strike is just for your physical attacks, not for your elemental attacks. And once you have those skills maxed, so you got Lightning Fury, Pierce, and Critical Strike, I'd max Guided Arrow next. This is your best way to kill a single target. It's your highest damage single target DPS. And after you have those 4 skills maxed, I put about 8 to 10 more points into multi-shot. It's just a good thing to have, but not really necessary, just your own personal preference. And then I scattered some extra skill points among the passives. So dodge, I put 1 extra point in dodge, 4 extra into avoid, which is more for PvP actually. You don't really need to do that. If this were just for killing cows, I'd probably put more into dodge and nothing extra into avoid, and just a little extra into evade. And I definitely recommend getting 1 skill point in Valkyrie. It's great to tank act bosses and to tank lightning enchanted cows. So that's the skill tree. Moving on, so let's talk about the items then. So one thing that's really good about the Javazon is that it's not really gear dependent. You don't need amazing gear to kill cows really fast and to be effective. It's really gear light. So in terms of gear, what you really want to look for, and this is in order of priority, is you want to have 5 to 10% mana leech. This is so that you don't need to drink mana potions, you can just leech it and just keep throwing Lightning Fury. 5 to 10% life leech. This is if you do ever get hit on your next attack, you can just leech your life back. So once you have 5 to 10 mana leech and life leech, the next most important stat to look for in your items is increased attack speed, or EISC, as I call it. And this is a really big driver in terms of your damage. And what ES is how fast you throw. Your throw speed is dependent upon your increased attack speed. It's not related to cast speed at all. So here are the breakpoints. So you can see that with just 20% ES, you already drop to a 12 frames per attack. And just to let you know, Titan's Fury, which is the javelin I have, and I recommend most people use, is a minus 10 speed javelin. You can see that right up here. So definitely, getting more ES is better. At a minimum, you should have 20%, which you can easily get from gloves. And I right now have 60%, which puts me in the 10 frames per attack. I think that's the most you would really want to get. I think the gear sacrifices needed to get to 90 is a little too much, but it would technically make you kill cows faster. So ES is a big stat to look for, and you want to make sure you hit these breakpoints, because the way it works is that if you have 16 ES, you're throwing at 12 frames per second. If you have 15, then you go back up to the next one. So it's either all or nothing. The difference between 7 ES and 15 ES, that there is no difference between those two. There's no difference between 16 ES and 29, that you have to reach 30 to hit this next frame. So, So let me show you the items that I have right now. So I have Titan's Revenge for my jabs. This drops a fair amount, and it does range in terms of how much enhanced damage and how much life leech it has. But as long as you have a Titan's Revenge, that's all that's needed. You don't need to specifically look for a higher enhanced damage or a higher life leech. It just really doesn't make much of a difference. So I definitely recommend this. And if you don't have this, you can just use any magical jabs with any of the stats I talked about before: mana leech, life leech, ES, until you find a Titan's Revenge. For my helm, I have a Steel Skull Cask, and these are all items I found in cows pretty quickly. So, and this has a lot of the things we're looking for. It has 10% ES. Faster hit recovery is nice, not really necessary. You just don't get hit that much in cows, so it's just really not a big deal. It has dual leech, 5%, mana and life leech, so that right there gives us all of the leech we need. And lastly, I didn't mention this in the stats, but because Javazons kill cows really fast, they're a great magic finder for cows as well. So since you're going to be killing a lot of cows to level up, and to level up other characters if you want to multi-box and level up multiple characters, it's good to have Magic Find. It definitely having at least 1 to 200% Magic Find makes a big difference in terms of the items that are dropped. Magic Find does have diminishing returns. Probably the sweet spot is around 300 to 400% without compromising the rest of the year. And one other item for the helm that I was using before I found Steel Skull was Tal Rasha's helmet. I don't have it right now, but it's a set death mask, and it has 10% life leech, 10% mana leech, which is really nice, and a lot of other good stats on it. So I definitely recommend using that if you can't find Steel Skull. Shaco is another popular choice. I think many people know that I use +2 skills, plus a lot of life, plus a lot of mana, and 50 MF Magic Find. Those are basically the 3 good options for helmets. But again, you're just looking for those stats: mana leech, life leech, ES. Magic Find is good, plus skills are good. For the amulet, I'm using Cat's Eye right now, and one thing also to look for in stats is Run Walk. This may not seem intuitive, but if you really think about it, you spend a lot of time in cows running. Probably at least half your time is simply your character running. And so the faster you run, the less time you spend running, the more time you can spend throwing Lightning Fury or killing cows. And it really makes a difference in terms of how fast you can kill the whole cow level. Because really that's what you're trying to do. You're trying to really increase or lower the time it takes you to kill the entire cow level. So, this says 31 walk, 30% run walk. That's great. 20 ES. And plus Dex is nice, but not really huge. Some other amulets I used before this is I crafted this one. There's a recipe of a perfect amethyst, a magical amulet, a Ral rune, and you could transmute that into cube, and a magical jewel, any kind of magical jewel, and you craft a caster M. I've been crafting them for my sorceress, but I happen to make this one plus 2 skills. That's good. Cast rate doesn't matter. Plus 9 min damage really doesn't matter, but it has 33 MF. So plus 2 skills, 33 MF, not bad. Before that, I also found this one in cows. Again, plus 2 skills, mana leech, really things we're looking for. So that's basically what you're looking for. But I like Cat's Eye a lot, and it helps me reach the 60% ES breakpoint. For the armor, so right now I'm using Skulders. Plus skills, that's good, that's what we're looking for. And it has pretty good MF as well. And you see that I socketed my helm and armor with a perfect topaz for more magic climb. I didn't really see much of a difference, or that was basically what I wanted the most. I didn't need anything else, so I just chose to socket with that. For the shield, so I recommend this shield. It's just a rune word, Shale F, very common runes. Just find a 2-socket shield. I used the heater shield, which is the elite version of a buckler, simply because I think it has a higher % chance to block. But I mean, you'll get enough dex that you'll hit max block anyway, so it's really not a big deal. So this has some good stats we're looking for. It has a good block rate. It has some plus to all resistances, and has some magic find. Cannot be frozen is nice as well, so I don't have that anywhere else. So in terms of gloves, so I found these just in the cow level, just 20 ES gloves plus dex. Not bad. I also sometimes use chance guards for more MF, but with chance guards I can't hit the 60 ES breakpoint. So I think any 20 ES gloves are fine to use, and if they have like life leech, mana leech, or plus javelin skills, plus passive skills, that's great, but not really necessary. For my rings, so I found a navel ring in cows, so this is just purely for the MF. I had enough leech from my helm that I really didn't need any more mana or life leech. But before I found the helm, I was using some rings that I found in cow level. So like here's a mana leech ring I found, or a life leech ring I found. Here's a mana leech ring I was using before, and here's another life leech ring. So because I don't need the leech, I figured, well, let's just get more magic climb. And my other ring is basically something else I found in cows, just a pure magic find ring. My belt is gold wrap. I think this is a great choice. It has ES, so it helps me hit the 60% breakpoint, or technically 52, but you'll never hit 52 exactly on the spot, so it's 55 or 60. 30 MF, and that's great. That's basically what I'm looking for. You can also use Thunder Gods. That's another good belt. It has +3 to Lightning Fury and some other good stats, but I don't think the plus skills really increase your killing speed that much. It's nice to have, but not necessary. Some other good options I found are Razor Tail, and with this you can basically have 100% piercing on your Lightning Fury. This does make a big difference on your Lightning Fury damage, but I find hitting the next breakpoint matters more, and I like the 30 MF as well, 30 magic find. And when I was first starting out, I found Vina's belt, so MF and Mana Leech, or sorry, Faster Run Walk and Mana Leech. That was a great starter belt. So these are kind of some of the different belt options you can use. For boots, so I found this as well in cows, just a 31 walk, 20 faster hit recovery. War Travs are probably your ideal boots. They're, I think, 25% faster run walk and 30 to 50 magic find. Like I said, run walk helps a lot, so I definitely like run walk. In terms of charms, so I have about 3 rows of magic find charms. These are just random charms I found while playing. So 3 rows of magic find charms, and then 2 rows of run walk charms with whatever extra mods I can find. But I mean, the resistance really doesn't matter much. It is nice to have some cold damage, so when you fire guided arrow or multi-shot, it slows down the cows with the cold damage, but not a huge deal. And I always carry around keys to open all of the lock boxes as well. I definitely recommend them. You can find a lot of good items in the lock boxes. So that's the overview of items. Oh, I forgot. So for my bow, I found a Verizon socket with a shell. Probably not really necessary. If we go back to our breakpoints, we can see that Verizon is a plus 10, and basically the speed with a plus 10. So, no, Verizon already has 100 or 80 EOS on it already. So we're already basically at the 9 frames per attack. You can hit 8 frames with 147 EOS. Let's see if I'm there. 100. Yeah, I actually am there. So I'm at 8 frames per attack. Oh, never mind. That's bow. Ignore all that. Crossbow. Here we go. So you can see that basically the fastest. Yeah, crossbows are much slower. The fastest any crossbow can go is 11 frames per second. And so 140 gets you to 12. Actually, no, 95. Oh, sorry. 140 gets you to 12 frames per attack. And, I put a shale in it because I first found Verizon pretty early on and didn't have anything better on it. So with just 40 EOS, I hit 12 frames per attack. So I'm actually a little past that with my rest of my gloves. So I think a shale is a good choice. As it's cheap and just simplifying. Again, this is a budget starter build, not a maximum min-max Javazon build. Just something easy to kill cows quickly, effectively, and not spend tons of time trying to get really hard to find items. So that's the charms. Let me also talk about my hotkeys. So, I really recommend everyone not to use the F1, F2, F3 keys, which are the default. You can change them just by going in options, figure controls, and just changing them here. So I definitely recommend that. I think it's much easier to use the keys on your keyboard rather than the F keys. So I put my most used skills under QWE. So guided is Q, Valkyrie is A, E is my lightning fury, and actually Z, like zucchini, is my weapon switch. So that's another thing that you'll use a fair amount. And I have some items on my left skill here. Jab, don't want to use it that much, and guided as well. So if I ever want, I can also shift click guided, hold down shift, and just click with my left click, as opposed to having to right click and switch the Q here. So not a big deal, but I definitely recommend changing your skill hotkeys. It's much easier to use. And last thing is, I actually don't have a hotkey here. Yeah. Slow missiles is great to use in cows for lightning in enchanted monsters. It makes the range less and lightning much easier to avoid. So I just wanted to point that out. I don't see a lot of people doing that, but it's great starting off when you're starting off because when you're in hell, even now, my resistances are not very good. So lightning enchanted monsters will hurt a lot. So anyways, I'm in a player's 8 game, so I just wanted to show you, how the cow level can go, or how it works, and talk about how Lightning Fury works. So of course, you get the Works leg and the Tome of Town portal. You transmute it, makes the cow, the portal to the cow level. I also recommend having a battle orders barb or a BO barb. So that can just double your life very quickly and just makes it a little easier. And also, if you max shout, you get tons of defense. So even cows won't even hit you from just a defense point of view, not even blocking. So anyways, we'll run to the cow and see how it goes with players 8 and show you that this is a decently geared Javazon, but nothing crazy. These are all items you could really find or trade for. The currency in Diablo 9 is generally P gems and chip gems. This drops a lot in cows, and you can save them up and trade them for basic items. Like I actually traded P-gens for my cat's eye. So, and that's because people use those to craft cruel elite weapons. You use chip gems for that and perfect gems for other things. So, anyways, let's go into cow level and I'll show you how it works. So first, go into cow level, and what you want to do is you want to group up the cows. So, like, I'm not going to start attacking. What I want to do is group them up, back up, and fire in the middle of the cows. And you see that the more cows that are picking up, the more damage you do. Killing one or two cows, I don't really do as much damage. Last thing on the keys is I set spacebar to be show items. I find that's a lot easier on the hands than tap. So generally when I'm doing cows, what I'll do is I'll run around, group up a bunch of cows. Like here's a good group down here. Try and get them all up in a good group. And then just fire them back up a little and just up a little. You see that there's a So what I like to do is kill all of the other cows around the hero cow, and I'll summon a stop and then kill the hero cow. I see that this hero cow isn't that strong, so I can just kill him and just the rest of the cows. See that and if you want, you can switch and just shoot a guy down. Oh, I got frozen. Not ideal. Normally you would want to switch to your shield because it cannot be frozen. So, but I was a little too slow there. And you see that, you know, if you pick up the flawless emeralds or flawless gems, you can craft 3 of them together and make a perfect one. And I always check the chest as well. For cows, you can switch to your bow. Sometimes that's actually faster than cows. And the same thing applies to shoot, back up. You know, pretty straightforward. And let's show you a couple more packs here. So let's try unfrozen. Let's do it frozen. So get a big pack here. This pack. One hint, see this wall here? If you shoot into the wall, it will actually double your lightning fury. I'm way too far from the wall, but let me show you what I mean. Let me get them close to the wall. I'll show you. Because lightning fury, the way it works is when I shoot it, for every cow it hits as it pierces through, it sends the circle of lightning fury bolts. So if there's only one cow, I do one release of 26 bolts. But when I hit 4 or 5 cows in a row, like I have now, then it's a lot of bolts. That's why it's important if you want to hit as many cows in a straight line as is possible. So anyways, let me show you how the wall works really quick. You guys do that. So I'm going to lead the cows to the wall. I go to the other side of the wall. So it's kind of like double the just a helpful hint, not really a huge deal. But, and you know, let me show you what I mean for the lightning enchanting, because you know I'm at the couch. I'm going to slow missile out of the counter. You see that when his lightning bolts come out, actually, it's a lot better. As you can see, I'm a little bit squishy. I don't have tons of vitality, but if you use battle orders, you will be fine on life. So, what I do with the house is I basically kill the guys around here. Once it gets to a small enough level, what I do is I send my Valkyrie, switch to my bow, maybe kill some of the other guys in the some of the bows. And I'll just use my bow to kill the Valkyrie. Now, the Valkyrie is physical, and because by default you then I'll just basically skip it. It's not worth the time. Let me kill the cow thing, and then I'll probably do this guy. Oh, so he's the people. We don't really do much damage. So it's not really worth it. I'm not actually doing like any damage. I'm not even you see, you do want to make sure with that arrow, you don't have to target against the wall. Defense your person. So now you see the arrows going back and forth. So I mean, I just spent 5 minutes here killing him, but it's not worth it. So I just basically move on. Do one more pack here to show you how it works. Here's a wall. One other hint is, when I actually cast Lightning Fury, I do like to hold down because it helps you see items as they drop. So you don't miss something, because sometimes you'll get a big pack and sometimes light down and it's hard to miss. If you watch the items as they drop, it'll help you. Death sucks. It's much better to just switch to your bow, kill him. One other last thing I'm just going to end on is your character can get desynced or kind of like misplaced with the server if you get hit right after you switched weapons. So what I like to do is to not switch weapons when I'm near cows. I like to just switch weapons. That's what someone's talking about. As soon as I stop switching between my bow and my jabs, when I'm close to cows, then I no longer have that option. After I switched, I was sure that I wasn't going to get it. So, anyways, that's my guide. Hope it helps, and hope to see you around. Alright, peace, guys.